I'll be the first to admit, I was a little bit surprised when I heard this one get announced. I've been watching Danny Garcia for years, man. I remember when he first kind of took the next step in his career, when he went out there with that infamous no-look left hook and he smoked Amir Khan with it. And ever since then, we've been talking about him at a world-class level. I remember when he was at welterweight, we're talking about him in the mix with, Keith Thurman and Sean Porter and Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford and all of those guys. But he's been incredibly inactive in recent years. We haven't heard much from him at all. And I watch him on social media, so I see him on Instagram, and he's always posting things that have nothing to do with boxing, right? And I mean that in an absolutely good way, because it looks like this dude has found real sources of income outside of boxing. We see him talking about his promotional companies, always talking about the investments he's making and the real estate deals that he's involved with. And that's all great stuff. And it's hard, man. It is hard to prove yourself in this boxing ring, turn around and take that money and flip it into something else and continue to make money, be inactive, and then turn around and sign up for another grueling training camp and sign up to get punched in the face and everything. So, 36 years old, not exactly a spring chicken, not exactly old. I was really thinking we were at a point where there was a real possibility that we were never going to see Danny Garcia in the ring again. And yet here he is, right? And he jumps out, and he doesn't jump out and take a bum, doesn't jump out and take some no-nothing, no-level fight. Man's moving up to middleweight and fighting Arislandi Lara. Now, Lara, he's not a spring chicken either, man. This dude's actually 41 years old, but he's no pushover. He is no pushover. I mean, standout amateur career, came out of Cuba, boxing for the Cuban national team and just racking up all kinds of wins and all kinds of accolades and everything, and then ends up coming over here. And I remember when he came over right around the time that we were, Guillermo Rigondeaux was coming over, and just some incredibly talented fighters. But Lara, he had this style that we'll say was less than pleasing to the majority of fans, right? He was a lot of footwork, a lot of movement, all kinds of outside lateral movement around the ring and everything. I mean, guys couldn't land on him. Really responsible defensively, really talented in the way that he was able to avoid a lot of shots. Flip side, of course, was the fact that he wasn't landing much either. And people were they didn't want to see these boring fights. They didn't want to see him go out there. So even though we had seen him all the way up to and including a huge fight with Canelo, it wasn't the type of thing that fans were clamoring for. They really weren't interested in seeing this dude fight. But what I find interesting is the way that he reinvented himself. Like, this dude literally came out and reinvented himself, turns around, hooks back up with Ismael Salas, right? At this point, we're talking, 6 fights, maybe 7 fights, something like that they've been working together. And ever since he hooked up with dude, he completely revamped his style. Now, instead of using all of this movement, he sits there. He's there in front of his opponent, ready to fight, able to be hit. Really responsible defensively, so he uses a good guard, uses slight little angles with his upper body movement and his footwork, loves counter punching, sits down on his shots more. Counters with combinations. I still wouldn't call this dude like high activity. I still wouldn't refer to him as having a really good work rate or anything like that, but he's got such a high IQ. He knows how to land that counter left. He knows how to get in there and land the jab. He knows still how to use the footwork and move around in little spots and angles, get the lateral movement off when he wants to frustrate people. One of the things about Danny Garcia is that he's best at mid-range. He loves to counterpunch from that mid-range distance, particularly with that left hook, right? He's got a really good right hand that we see him use a lot against southpaws, whether it was Ivan Redkach or Errol Spence in recent memory, and loves to go to that right hand. But really, he's known for that left hook. And Arislandi Lara has been vulnerable to the left hook in the past. We saw him get dropped with it multiple times. We saw him even get hit with it against Castano. But the thing is this, as much as we think about that left hook because of the damage that it's been done, he hasn't really got caught with it since he started hooking up with Ismael Salas. Now, it's still there at times. You look at this last fight with Gary O'Sullivan, there were times where we could see that he was open for it. He got caught with it. Maybe it wasn't like that damaging of a shot and he was able to eat it and whatever. But Danny Garcia, man, Danny Garcia's got a really good left hook. And the thing about Danny Garcia is you think about him and you could throw the phrase out there, Danny Garcia is a basic fighter. You could say that. And it sounds really bad to say it. Right? But like, basic fighter, this dude's a champion, multiple time world champion. He's been up here, he's been competing against all these guys. Look at the only people he's got losses to on his record. How are you going to call him a basic fighter? But the only people who say that, what they should be adding right on the end is that he's a man who's mastered the basics. Danny Garcia, you could look at him and say that he doesn't have anything special about him. He doesn't have hand speed, work rate, power, although I think his power is underrated, but it's not just like this raw, brutal, blunt force type power, footwork. None of those things are special. They're either average or above average. But the thing that makes Danny Garcia a world-class fighter is his timing. He's got really, really good ring IQ, and he's got awesome timing. That's how he's able to go in there and land that left hook. You add to that he's tough and he's durable. He doesn't mind eating a shot. He's going to get right in there. He's going to find his position in at mid-range, and he's going to punch with a guy. I heard Joel Goulston say it once, and I thought it was a really good phrase to describe Danny Garcia. He said he'll go in there and play tag with you, meaning he's going to catch and shoot, meaning he does not mind standing in front of you, blocking and catching and shooting a shot, meaning he's going to block it and then fire off one of his own, or just getting caught with a shot to put himself in a position to get his own off, right? Like, he's tough, he's durable, he wants to get his punches off. And part of the thing that adds to his power is that timing, because guys don't see it coming, and it's always the shot that you don't see coming that does the most damage. So when he's able to get in there and find his way in and make things happen, it works out well for him. But the thing is, he's been so inactive. He's been so inactive recently. He's been out of the ring so much. Is that timing going to hold up? Right? Like, is that timing? He's going to be able to come in here and he's going to be able to continue to execute on that timing. Because I would make the argument that timing is really what ring rust is about. When people come in and say, it took me a few rounds to get going, I was feeling the ring rust, I didn't quite get it in there, they're referring to timing. They're not referring to the hand speed or the foot speed. They're not referring to your power or anything like that. It's all about the timing. How fast you can pull that trigger, how fast you can react to the things that are going on. So that's what really makes Danny Garcia head and shoulders above everybody, or at least puts him in the world-class conversation for the majority of his career. And I think that's the very thing that's going to suffer in this fight by him being inactive. Now, you add to that how slippery and elusive Arislandi Lara can be when he wants to. So yeah, he gets caught by the left hook, but it hasn't been as much recently. He's going to be going in a guy against Danny Garcia with a great left hook, but his timing's going to be off because of the ring rust. Is Danny Garcia going to be able to move forward and back Arislandi Lara up? Sure, at times, but he's not going to be able to corner him against the ropes. He's not going to be able to back him into a corner and hold him there. Like, Lara's got great footwork and he knows how to move around and get out of things. The only way Danny Garcia is going to win this fight is if he's able to catch Lara with a left hook and hurt him. He doesn't even have to drop him. He doesn't necessarily have to knock him out, but if he's able to catch him and hurt him, that's going to change what Lara does. That's going to change the way that he approaches it and when he counterpunches and when he decides to be aggressive and when he shoots that straight left hand. And if he can kind of put him on the defense and disrupt that flow, that's going to put him in the position where he can start to move forward. He can start to put together combinations. He can start to try to wear on guys, right? He can start to work his rhythm and start to get his work rate going off and start to get the shots that he wants, start to land to the body and things like that. So, it's really going to be on Danny Garcia to find a way to get off and get his game plan going. Because as soon as these guys step out there, if this fight just remains kind of at a decent work rate, nothing special, fought mainly on the outside, man, that's going to be Lara all day. He's a sniper. He's going to be able to pick and pop and get this off. So I'm interested to see, man, what Danny Garcia is going to look like after all this time off. Because, like I said, I've been a fan of his for a long time. I wasn't necessarily when I very, very first saw him, but the guy grew on me after watching his style and watching the things that he was able to do over the years. Then I thought he might have been out of the game. And all of a sudden, he's jumping back in. So it should be good, man. It should be good to see what he does. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think he's going to be able to show back up and have what it takes? Or we're going to see him at his best? Will this be maybe his one great last fight? And what do you think about Lara? 41 years old, but he kind of reinvented himself recently. Does he have what it takes to hold off a guy who's incredibly motivated to win another world title? Let me know what you guys think.